Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
Doing just dandy, Jamie. Another week in paradise. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. So, for people that don't know, we didn't have a show last week because I got heat exhaustion. Shocker to no one. And what turns out, and this is actually a really bad thing, I got heat exhaustion, and I also had bronchitis a year and a half ago. So I'm still got this like the after effects of that. So like I went like hours at a time where I just could not breathe. uh, wasn't that funny now that I think about it? But hey, I'm alive. We're here. It's been a good week in gaming news. We have a lot to talk about. Typically, we have like 20 topics every week. Some small, some big. I'd say this week we've actually got a lot of big topics. There's the backwards compatibility stuff. Just put this Mass Effect topic in, which I want to talk about. Honestly, it's going to be a good show. And yes, I will be throwing some journalists under the bus, and that's always a fun time. Anyway, it's been an extremely long week. Logan, what have you been playing?
Oh, I've actually been playing kind of a handful of stuff lately. I've been playing Halo Remake, really
Nice.
enjoying it. Playing on Legendary because of course. Um really enjoy it. The changes they've made so far. I've been playing through the bonus missions,
Yeah.
the bonus campaign first because I'm like, look, I have played through Halo and its remaster countless times. I know them in and out. I'll play the new stuff first and then hop into the remake of the original campaign. And I've been really enjoying it. I like the new guns they've added and the sprinting in Halo feels natural, even in the original one. And the skins are fun if you have them. And yeah, and the story's good. I like what they've done with the prequel stuff so far. Been playing that. Been playing Doom Dark Ages. Really enjoying that. Man, the weapons in that game are so like underrated.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't feel like people talk about them enough in the pantheon of like weapons in games. Like the shield is amazing. Like Lancer mixed with Captain America's shield. And then I love the pulverizer. The idea of just like I have this giant skull thing that shoots bone shards and sometimes
Oh
like
yeah, that was good.
radioactive bone shards. I've got a breach shot like cannonball gun and just all this stuff is, and then the mace to go like fully medieval on these guys. Super fun. Loving that. Been playing Dispatch since it finally hit Xbox after all this time of wondering where is it. And it was worth the wait. It is
Oh good.
hilarious. I love it so much. Like the writing is S tier. It is fantastic. This is you can clearly tell that these guys were at Telltale during the height of their powers. Like this is on brand perfection. It is really well done. Definitely going to do multiple playthroughs to, get all the possible endings I want to see or slight changes. I don't particularly enjoy some of the mission structure, but it's the price of admission. I enjoy the story and the characters and like some of the other stuff. It's really the cast is brilliant. Like if you haven't seen the cast, it's really really good. And I love all the parodies of like it's like a boys kind of parody, but instead of like super dark and morbid, it's more just like witty and funny and more lighthearted version of parodying superheroes, if you know what I mean. Like they kind of combine a guy and make him like a Batman mixed with Iron Man parody or an Omni Man who is not a psychopath and like I don't know, it's a lot of fun. Been playing that, Balatro, just got to get those rounds in and then Power Wash Sim 2, just finished the Star Wars content. Love it. Can't wait. Hope we get another major expansion soon. And yeah, that's what I've been playing. How about you, man?
I've actually been playing a bunch of different games. So the Halo campaign remake, we'll call it. Yeah, I've been playing through that on Legendary with a friend that's never played it before. So
Oh boy.
he's been in for a world of hurt. He wasn't expecting this. But I will say this: he is actually having a good time playing it. I really do like the addition to gameplay when it comes to things like sprint. Like, I know that
Mhm.
might scare some people, like how dare they put sprint in? But honestly, it's just it kind of just speeds up the process. Like, even though I am playing it on Legendary, maybe it's because I've played these games so many times in the past, and I know what I'm doing. I know where to go. Like, I feel like I feel like I'm getting through each level a lot quicker, which is a bit weird. So I don't know if it's because of sprint or because I just know what the hell I'm doing. But yeah,
Probably both.
and the fact I'm playing it with someone that's never played before, so yeah, probably a combination of both. But I do like that, and trying to teach someone how to crouch jump, like he had no idea what I was talking about. But like, if you think about it, in most games you can grab ledges, so like the concept of crouch jumping doesn't make sense if you try and explain it. But the message got across, and yeah, that's such a good time. I'm actually saving the prequel missions till after I've finished the campaign, just as a little treat. But yeah, they did a bang up job with what this game looks like. My God, it is beautiful. Now there is a machinima mode, which lets you pull back the camera and you can do machinima films. And I pulled the camera back and just went along the beach, and my God, it's some of the best like visuals I've ever seen. Your footprints stay in the sand as the water's going over the sand and all this stuff, and the water reacts to bumps in the sand as it would in real life. Like, it's just such a small thing, and I don't like to get too caught up on graphics, but in this I'm like, wow, it's pretty. It's such a good looking game. And we will talk about the development of that game later on, but man, like, you cannot walk away from that game and say it's not good looking. Like, they
Have
cooked.
you tried third person by
Yeah,
chance?
I did. Let me tell you, terrible. Uh, uh
It's not Gears Prime.
no, like, and maybe it's because I'm so used to playing it in first person, but like my friend who never played it before, he was like, "Can we get the third person mode?" And the for people that don't know, the third person skull is at the beginning of the game. It's actually underneath the pilot seats in the cockpit of the Pillar of Autumn. Right, super easy to get, and we collected that. We tried the next mission in third person, and it was awful. Like, there's something, maybe it's a mental thing, that playing Halo for all these years in first person, and yeah, it does pull back to third when you use a turret and things like Halo 2, 3, and Reach. But there's something about playing that game in third person that just, it doesn't feel right. um,
Almost like it did on PS5.
yeah,
Heyo.
yeah, it was just weird. Did you try it in third person?
I have not yet, but I was wanting to ask somebody who's familiar with the game as much as I am before I tried it to see what they thought.
It's just so weird. Like, trying to aim, and bear in mind, you aim the same way. You just point to the middle of the screen, and I thought it was so weird. Like, I highly recommend people, once this podcast's done, play it in third person. It will feel so weird and alien. But there's another thing that happened recently about the alien feeling thing, and that is Gears of War E-Day. The beta started today, technically. So they're doing like a little test before the beta goes live, and I decided to fire up the game. Now, I will talk about the movement a bit more later in the show when more people are getting into the show. But yeah, the default controls aren't standard Gears controls. So that also felt alien. So it's like you take a legacy IP and you slightly change the controls or change something, it can just feel weird. Thankfully, by the way, you can change the controls in Gears to just standard old Gears controls, because pressing Y to change weapon is a thing in most games, but doing that in a Gears of War title feels wrong. um, But yeah, that was fun. So like they did a bang up job with Halo. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I get it. I've glazed this game basically every single time we've had a show, and I'm gonna continue to glaze it again because my God in heaven, they cooks, right? Square Enix, they did a fantastic job, man. And this game, it pulls at the heartstrings. And I'm only on chapter 10. I'm guessing I should be done with the game by maybe next week's podcast. But Rebirth is possibly one of the best games I've ever played. My God in heaven, they actually really knew what they were doing with that game. And you can just tell that the developers listened to the feedback of the first game. Like, they actually really knew what they were doing. And I feel like, the fact that they got this game out in, 4 years after the first one, in a time where development of most games is 6 to 7 years. Yeah, Square Enix, man. I really hope they get that team to do more Final Fantasy games after they finish Part 3. But my God, what a good game! And I have been playing some Arc Raiders, but I'm not going to bore people. I will say this: I seem to be complaining about Arc Raiders every week because the lack of content. But the truth is, I love the gameplay. The gameplay is super sleek. It's super good, and I completely missed this. But it turns out the developers, rather than do these little updates throughout the year with new maps and stuff, they actually just want to do 2 drops a year, where you get one map near the beginning of the year and one map near the end. I don't know how I feel about this type of support for a multiplayer game, because months and months in between maps feels a bit weird. I put it like this, right? I'm playing with crossplay turned on. 14 million people bought this game, and I'm being put into matches with full teams, meaning that they're struggling to put me into matches with other solo players. That means that the player pool across all platforms, even though they've sold 14 million units minimum, there must be a couple of thousand people playing daily, which is shocking. The fact that I'm selecting solo mode and I'm being put into matches with full teams, that's worrying, because I don't want my stuff taken, and that's going to happen if this keeps happening. So the Arc Raiders team, Embark, they really need to get their crap together and start putting out content, because you can't have 14 million players waiting for content. And as someone that I don't even do multiplayer, but Arc Raiders is so good when it comes to gameplay, I want to play it. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Just a couple of different games, but man, I have to say, you have these people that will go on, live streams, make videos where all they do is complain about gaming. All they do is, say gaming's dying or whatever. It's there's so many good games to play right now. I don't know how people complain, there's new great games coming out every week, basically. You look at the games that's already came out this year, 007 First Light, incredible. Final Fantasy Remake, Integrate, incredible on Xbox, Rebirth, incredible. Crimson Desert is still getting updates. It got another update 2 nights ago, where they're still putting in features. And by the time you get to it, Logan, it's probably going to be the most polished, featured product ever made. I think everyone that's been putting off getting Crimson Desert for months, you're going to get a hell of an experience.
Can't wait. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I do hope we see more single-player developers treat their games like this, where, hey, we'll listen to feedback, we'll put in features people want, and the word of mouth for Crimson Desert has been ridiculous. People that aren't into video games that much, I've heard talk about Crimson Desert and how they want to get into gaming because of Crimson Desert. Do you know how crazy that is? That this super hardcore fantasy game is making people to get, or wanting them to get into gaming, if that makes sense. But and I've put a lot of time into Crimson Desert. I've had to delete it, unfortunately, just because it's such a big file size. And the Gears beta just dropped and all that stuff. I will be getting back to it soon after Rebirth. But that's what I've been playing. It's been a hell of a time to be a gamer. And now, considering we've been away for 2 weeks, sometimes the algorithm doesn't do us that good if we've had a break. So if you're enjoying the show, please hit the like button. It does help the algorithm and help the channel be put out there and the podcast be out there. And if you are want to support the channel more, sharing it on social media does help as well. Super chats are welcome as well if you want to support the channel that way. It's all greatly appreciated and all goes back into the channel. Anyway, we have like 20 topics, and let's get into them because honestly, it's going to be a good show. So, Mass Effect 4. I keep talking about this game because, my God in heaven, it's one of the scariest things in the world for me. I'm afraid of very few things in life. Spelunking, spiders, super deep water, and Mass Effect 4. My God in heaven, you don't want to see me around a big spider. Oh. But anyway.
You don't trust BioWare magic, Jamie?
Look, BioWare magic to me is... It used to represent something that we used to get, right? We used to get these excellent BioWare games, excellent storytelling, great gameplay, and, their gameplay got better with every new game. And I've been burned so many times that I can't feel myself. Like, I should be the most excited person in the world for the next Mass Effect game. And I am, right? I am excited. The problem is that I look at what happened with Anthem, right? Where we got I think we both got the Steel Deluxe version of that game, and that game had broken netcode, and that game came out, by the way, just after I got fiber optic broadband, so like the netcode problems weren't on me, then there was the Mass Effect Andromeda thing, then there was, I personally didn't like Dragon Age Inquisition just because the way that game was designed, the hinterlands were the most boring piece of gameplay design I've ever seen in any game. Dragon Age: The Veil Guard, I'll say no more. And honestly, like, look, I want the next Mass Effect game to be great. Obviously, I talk about it. I talk about Mass Effect daily, so like, I clearly want the new game to be great. But anyway, what happened is that Saudi Arabia's basically bought EA, and that deal's officially gone through today. Now, what will this do to Mass Effect? Will it make the game better? Will it make it worse? We don't really know. But with that being said, I think that EA's track record for BioWare, like, I think this goes to show that this will be their last game. Like, unless this game is the Mass Effect game it needs to be, I can't see it. I can't see BioWare staying around. I really can't. They clearly near and dear to my heart. Like KOTOR back when that came out, that blew my mind as a kid, right? I never played anything like that. The fact that a video game could have a twist, like a story-related twist like that would rival other Star Wars films. Like, I still don't spoil the twist for people in that game, and I won't. But like,
it blew my mind.
Yeah. Like, no one saw that coming, and like, I put that up there with the Empire Strikes Back thing, right? And like, that game fundamentally changed how I view video games, right? And that's also one of the reasons why I mainly stick to story-based games. But like, that was BioWare, and when they came out and said, "Look, we're making this new sci-fi game. It's in a brand new universe," I was like, "Okay, I'm sold," right? And then I saw it, and my God, in those Looney Tunes like cartoons where like they fall in love and the heart comes out the chest, right? That was me.
And their eyes get out of their sockets and they start floating. Yeah.
that was me. I was in love with that game, like the aesthetic, everything about it. Third person shooting. I mean, it had this like sort of retro 70s thing going on for sci-fi, and I fell in love with it, right? And then Mass Effect came out, and I fell in love with that game the second I picked up that controller again and started playing it. And then Mass Effect 2 came out, and it was the pinnacle of sci-fi RPG storytelling. Then you have Mass Effect 3, which was great. I don't care what people say. And like, to me, BioWare were like the best of the best ever. And I feel like, how many of those people work there anymore? Really, it's not many.
5.
It's probably less than that, to be honest. You know, the fact that they put the C team, the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer team, on Andromeda, like they gave a multiplayer studio the keys to the city, right? Say, hey, you guys make an RPG. And what's that term? They screwed the pooch. They did a bad job. And then you have the Veil Guard did bad. And I played that game, and honestly, I couldn't bring myself to finish it. It's so bad.
It's an abomination, honestly.
Like, the name. Why is it called the Veil Guard? You had
Dreadwolf was so much better.
Yeah, Dreadwolf was such a cool name. My God, what a cool name. And then the Veil Guard, and like the writing in that game was absolutely atrocious. Atrocious at best. And the thing is, I thought some of the gameplay was actually pretty decent if you played as a soldier class, but like they've messed up so many times, and I just say this, and I'm thinking this is their last shot. Like this game, and we will be moving on from Mass Effect in a moment, but I'm just having a little rant because I came to the realization that if Mass Effect 4, we'll call it, comes out and it's not the game it needs to be to sell 10 million units, right? BioWare's done. What that game needs to be is a direct follow-up to 3. It's going to have to convey to people that, hey, you're going to see familiar faces. Hey, we're going to give you gameplay that feels rock solid and not floaty, because that was an Andromeda thing. And we're going to make this, a more mature game, because the Mass Effect games are fairly mature. Not this light-hearted, wavy gravy crap, right? As you can tell, I'm a bit annoyed because like I have this bad feeling. N7 days, just a couple of months away. Like, are we going to see something? I'm guessing not. We're probably going to get some concept art, and we're going to have the Mass Effect fan base split down the middle, where you have one group of people like me that want a follow up to Mass Effect 3, a game that people liked, and you have another group of people that they have this obsession of having the next Mass Effect game to be a direct follow-up to the game that almost killed the franchise. like to me, I'm just like, oh God, what's the new game going to be? Are they listening to these people or the people that actually bought the games? Mass Effect rant over. But we have a bunch of different topics. You know what, Logan? You wanted to bring one of these up. So, actually, this is kind of on topic. So, Aspyr, who've remastered and ported a bunch of Star Wars games, apparently they are having their relationship severed with Disney. Disney are not very happy.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, absolute shocker. So, for people that don't know, Aspyr did the remasters and ports for things like the Battlefront Collection, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on mobile, and a bunch of other Star Wars games. Well, it turns out Disney's not happy with their performance in a bunch of their games. They were the developers that were actually meant to do the KOTOR remake. By the way, when that was announced, I was actually shocked. Not because KOTOR was getting a remake, but it was the fact that it was Aspyr.
Yeah, like, it getting a remake was a total no-brainer, should happen. But a port studio that has never done anything getting the holy grail of RPG gaming was insane.
Yeah, like, I can imagine remastering a game is a task in itself, but like remaking from scratch as a port studio, I thought that there's no way in hell like that these could do it. And like, they're clearly competent developers. They kind of know what they're doing when it comes to like, some ports and stuff. But like their single player stuff, right? They clearly get what they're doing, right? Although then again, I have heard that the Tomb Raider games that people like, and the Soul Reaver games, Legacy of Kain, that those were actually done more by Crystal Dynamics as opposed to Aspyr games. But like, I
Mm.
put it like this for people listening right now. I was in the player pool of reviewers for the Battlefront collection, right? There was like 150 of us, maybe, and it had broken netcode. There was no collision, which means like I was firing at other enemies point blank range with a rocket launcher, right? Nothing was happening on screen. And then this game was had such a huge opportunity to be a big success, and they messed it up. They messed it up, and they had such an easy job because the game's already playable on Xbox right now via backwards compatibility, and the BC versions are better. Like, how is that a thing? So if you have an Xbox hooked up, congratulations, you can play the originals, and they'll look better. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, them separating, with Aspyr for future games, it makes sense. And honestly, if you have Night Dive Studios sitting right there that can clearly remaster games in a great way, which they've proven with Dark Forces, where they actually remade a bunch of the assets, yeah, stop working with Aspyr games. They clearly don't respect the source material in any way. So yeah, Logan, what do you think? Because, like, to me, this is a good move. It shows that Disney actually want more remakes or remasters of older games and actually have, effort put into them.
Yeah, I think it's a no brainer. Like I'm glad they made a port of Bounty Hunter, so I was able to get it on Xbox because that one wasn't originally. But like for the most part, their ports were pretty bare bones, if nothing else. And they didn't come with achievements and like of the original Xbox ones wouldn't come and then like they make the collection which is just an albatross and a disaster. And then they had the audacity, which hey, I respect audacious confidence, but you got to back it up to take on the holy grail of an RPG title of, you know, I consider like a Star Wars gospel basically in Knights of the Old Republic. And to try that and it to be so disastrous that Sony has basically erased its existence from YouTube, like they completely shed the art team and directors. They shuffled it to Saber really quickly, quietly. It's been hidden in the shadows. Like, it must have been something truly spectacularly awful, is for it to have gone that badly and for them to pull a relationship like that. So, I it's a bummer. You don't want things to go badly, you want things to go well, and they have done some good work on, like, Tomb Raiders and stuff, but for Star Wars and the way the Knights of the Old Republic thing went, I understand.
Yeah, yeah. I still don't think they've actually fixed Battlefront. By the way, um, they had if I remember correctly, they had enough servers at launch for around 300 people to play simultaneously. I don't know how true that is, but I did hear that. And that wouldn't shock me, right? Because they could have introduced a whole new generation to these beloved games, right? Um, you know, and they messed it up so bad. And what's funny is like, in the Geonosis level. So for Star Wars fans listening, you know what I'm talking about. There's these like tanks with these huge wheels, right? It's like a two-wheel tank, right? I remember driving over other players and it wasn't even touching them. Like nothing would happen, and like that's how broken that experience was. And by the way, the single player was broken as well, not just multiplayer. So collision in the single player was messed up as well. like with netcode and online, okay, I can get it. It's still messed up, but the fact that single player collision wasn't a thing. Um, Hopefully, like if anything, I really hope Disney work with someone like Night Dive to redo the Battlefront collection again, because like there's so much potential, with cut content, getting more people on board for the multiplayer. Like if they launch that right, and not such a lazy hack job what they did, they would have a huge success in their hands. I think a lot of people would be willing to get into these games, but unfortunately they've been kind of burned essentially. Now it is a shame that Aspyr, some people I'm sure are out of work, but I just don't understand how you can have these beloved IPs, these beloved games, and you get the license to work with them, to remaster them, to port them, and you don't do anything to them at all. And if you look at a lot of Aspyr's games, you'll notice that they're not actually called remasters. They're just direct ports. That's why the widescreen version of Knights of the Old Republic isn't on Xbox, because on Xbox you can't have, as far as I know, you can't have a game with the same name launching on the console as something else. So you can't have two games launch as Knights of the Old Republic, right? And that's why we don't have the widescreen version, because they didn't bother calling it remaster or definitive edition. But hey, it is what it is. At least this will lead to better remakes and stuff, because I did hear that apparently, I don't know how true this is, that Night Dive were wanting to make a remaster of Shadows of the Empire.
I would be pretty confident that would be a thing.
And I never got a chance to play Shadows of the Empire, but I heard nothing but good things about it. And hopefully we will see things improve. But hey, it is what it is. And Aspyr, get your crap together, because my god,
Speaking of Night Dive and Battlefront, imagine if they just for grins and giggles let them finish that original Battlefront 3 that was basically done and just put it out the way it was.
you know what, that would be interesting. That would be really
Just
interesting.
just to see how it would do.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going down that road, give them 1313.
Yeah, give them StarCraft Goes too.
Yeah.
Let's get the band back together.
Yeah, give them basically every cancelled game that's basically done. For people that don't know, do you know there's a Star Wars game that a lot of it was developed? It was a Darth Maul Arkham style game.
Yeah, that would have been sick.
Yeah, can we have that? I think I'm huffing the copium now or something. But hey, I just want more good Star Wars games. I want more old Star Wars games. Right? The fact that we don't have so many still, yeah, bring them over. I'll buy them. You know what, Logan? You want to talk about Quakecon, because Quakecon's just around the corner, and we could be seeing some big stuff.
Yeah, Quakecon is, for those who don't know, Quakecon is this big gathering of the minds and the fan base in Austin, Texas every year for a few days, where it's bring your own rig, and it's LAN parties and tons of shops and just a get together celebration of Quake, Doom, all things id software. And then since Bethesda acquired it, it has started to incorporate other Bethesda related stuff as well. It's just a real good fun time. Well, speaking of our friends at Night Dive, it has become a tradition that every year they show up and they announce a new remake, remaster, or a remake, remaster collection of something from its vault. And it seems that the likely one for this year has already been leaked out through data miners and listings through Steam database and the Steam Deck, operating system getting upgrades for certain things. That it looks like Wolfenstein '09 and possibly Return to Castle Wolfenstein will be getting remastered and shadow dropped at QuakeCon. And those are two games that I have been particularly adamant about getting backwards compatible because look, there is no excuses. You own Raven.
Yeah.
You own id. You own Bethesda. You own Activision. There should be zero problems to get these done. I know they quote exhausted the licensing and this, But that was before you spent $70 billion on the largest publisher out there. You suddenly inherited a lot more licenses than you had before. And so I always put them in my like there should be zero problems to get these BC. And if they're not BC, then I would definitely take the remaster remake. And it sounds like we're gonna get a remaster or remaster collection at Quakecon like we have every year from Night Dive. And it sounds like this year is '09 Wolfenstein and possibly Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Plus, you just saw that, which gives even more credence to the idea. Wolfenstein 3D, the 360 port of the original game, just got announced to be coming to Game Pass during QuakeCon as well. But put all that together, I think there's fire there.
Oh, which Wolfenstein game?
Wolfenstein 3D, the original one,
Oh, okay,
and
right.
then they had a port of it for 360
Oh yeah,
that's BC. It I didn't know it wasn't in Game Pass this whole time.
yeah.
That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. Although then again, they have a bunch of like weird licensing stuff. So I have Lost Odyssey, which still isn't in there, which boggles my mind. But hey, we're getting some cool stuff at QuakeCon. I know we've been talking about this for years, but like I think you've mentioned that Wolfenstein game, Wolfenstein 2009. You've mentioned that a lot on Twitter.
Yeah, because I don't even want to. I mean, the horse is mush at this point. But there are some games that, okay, I can see there being reasons for being a problem, maybe licensing or legal or tech or whatever. But then there are some not zero excuses, but pretty close games that should just be BC, just point blank. And those are two of them.
Yeah. And it does look like we might actually see some StarCraft shooter stuff there as well, because those games have been rumored for years. There have been rumors popping up that they will actually be there this year. It does feel like we are seeing more excitement for this QuakeCon than we have seen for the past couple of years. Um,
StarCraft at QuakeCon?
I'm getting all these bloody companies
I
mixed
think
up,
you mean
man.
BlizzCon. I
BlizzCon,
mean, because that would be a wow. Talk about a surprise.
yeah, BlizzCon. I'm getting these all mixed up, man. But look, it's meant to be a good show this year. At least we're getting multiple good shows this year. I do think that if we are going to see things like, Wolfenstein 2009 get, remastered or whatever, I think that does open the door for other games, from their back catalogue. Not necessarily, Bethesda or whatever, but like, I keep thinking about Singularity, right?
No brainer. Yep.
Like the fact that, it's Raven Software's title. It's the fact that, it got randomly put on the Windows 10 store with new art, right? All that type of stuff, right? The fact that it's just sitting there. And I think a lot of people on Xbox would love to play that game. It's very much it's BioShock, let's be honest. It's time
Mhm.
traveling BioShock. But that means it's a good thing. And I think so many people would like it. Obviously, we're going to be talking about BC later in the show because, that could play some part into it. But, man, they have, if you look at Xbox's back catalog, right, and how many games we don't have backwards compatible, there's so many easy wins there, right? Not just the superhero stuff, but like there's so many easy wins there that I think they could just like work with some external studios, get some of these games out of there. They could do with some goodwill, bringing back some older titles. I think a lot of people would be hyped for them. Let's see what we got next. Oh, you know what? You want to bring this up, Logan? Play Anywhere. Some more and more third-party titles are getting added to Play Anywhere. Even some older ones. So, Hogwarts Legacy, that got Play Anywhere. But also, Baldur's Gate 3, out of nowhere, got Play Anywhere. I didn't actually expect that to happen. Their movement on Xbox when it comes to even things such as sales has been slow. Thankfully, they actually announced a sale yesterday. So it's like 30% off on Xbox. So, yeah, Logan, this looks like it's actually good news for Play Anywhere.
Yeah, Xbox Play Anywhere is like one of my favorite features.
Yeah.
Backwards compatibility is obviously number one for me personally. but Play Anywhere is up there. And I love being able to play something on my Series X on my TV, and then if I want to hop in the other room and play on my Xbox Ally X or on the go on it, I can. It's just it honestly dramatic. If developers, Xbox, if you're listening, if you make a game Play Anywhere, it dramatically increases the chances I will buy that game compared to it not being. It's not a deal breaker, but it very much makes it more likely I will buy it. If especially if I'm weighing two games and one is XPA versus one is not. And yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 being a retroactively added title is a huge win. Like, you remember when the game came out, how it cleaned shop
Oh
at
yeah.
awards, and it's brilliant. I finally got my 40 plus hour playthrough back in. My save was resurrected somehow, and so I've been playing through it again. And yeah, just perfect timing. It's a perfect game for a handheld, point blank. So if you have an Xbox Ally X and you've actually not played Baldur's Gate, um, you should rectify that immediately because it's perfect for the device. It's on sale right now, and the game is Bioware coded. It is really, and I mean good Bioware, by the way. It is amazing. So just definitely get on that.
Yeah, I do want to get to it at some point. It's just the problem with me and that kind of combat. It can kind of like infuriate me. I'm sure there's like guides around that. For best classes and whatnot. You know what? I want to bring this up quickly because it was kind of doing the meme cycle on social media. So I've been blamed. By the way, the gaming media is absolutely hopeless, right? There's very few gaming journalists I actually like or trust, as far as I can throw them. Um,
Maybe five.
maybe five, maybe. But like, they always blame Game Pass, right? Because they're incompetent and lazy, and they hack journalists. Well, anyway, I always bring up the fact that black hole games, like that's the number one problem, right? Um, you've had what 200 million console players for the past 20 years. That number hasn't gotten any bigger, but yet I always see people getting into gaming. So like, what's happened with that number? Well, you have people that let's say there were kids or teenagers while playing Call of Duty. Who do I trust? Do you know Jez Corden gets a lot of crap, but I actually trust him. Jez Corden,
Absolutely. He's a
yeah,
good one.
Jez Corden, basically Windows Central. I do like Game Informer's articles.
Hmm.
I think Game Informer do like really good game centric articles. Hell, if I lived in the US, I'd get that magazine. Um,
I used to get it all the time before the dark times.
yeah,
They're a great publication. I definitely trust them as well.
yeah, really good stuff. But like, I never see these developers, not developers, these journalists blame black hole games. And anyway, so with the 200 million gamer thing on console, you have like teenagers and whatnot that were playing Call of Duty back in the day, and now they have kids and they play games less and less, and maybe they don't have a console anymore. The only people I see really get into gaming, like by like large margins, right? It's the people that are, hey, I'm getting into gaming to play Fortnite, or hey, I'm getting into gaming to play Apex or Warzone or something like that, right? And like the 200 million player number hasn't gone up. And you have these people that will, let's say, get a PlayStation or an Xbox and they only play Fortnite. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like that person, they're not putting any money into the game industry, right? So this person's buying a $5, $6, $7, $800 box, $900 box, right, to play a free-to-play game on, right? And Epic, I'll just use Fortnite as the example, but Epic, they getting the money, and PlayStation or whatever's getting like the rest of it. And like that person, they're not going out there buying a range of different titles each year. And like that's the black hole game type gamer, right? So these people will go, these journalists will blame Game Pass because they're lazy hack journalists and they can't do the job. And like you have these black hole gamers, they're not contributing anything. And the thing is, you have games cost more than ever to develop, right? So what? So basically, you have a developer that's, let's say a game now costs $300 million, right? They need to sell that to more people. The problem is there's not enough people getting into gaming like that supports those sales figures. So what's the other option? They raise the price of games. Well, let me tell you, you raise the price of games anymore, people are going to stop buying games day one. Right? That's just simple facts, right? So like to me, that's where the problem lies, right? It's not people subscribing to a subscription service. It's the people not contributing at all, right? Um, I've seen a lot of people, they'll say, "Hey, I bought a PlayStation because it's got more games." And you look at the game collection, and what is it? It's FIFA, Call of Duty, FIFA, Call of Duty, Madden, Call of Duty, like the gunball gamers, right? That's where that joke came from. And that's all these people play. They don't play anything else. They won't say like, "Hey, I'm going to play Assassin's Creed." Hey, I've just discovered Final Fantasy for the first time, right? Which is crazy. So like these people will buy a console and they'll play a free to play game, not putting any money into the ecosystem at all. And like even if you look at the battle pass thing, like the amount of times I've fired up Warzone and I see people playing using default skins, that's a lot of the time, right? Yeah, you see people with the premium stuff, but like the amount of people that just play these free to play experiences, that's a problem. And I'm not saying, bad free to play games, let's ban them. I'm just trying to illustrate a point as to, the actual problem with the gaming industry. So you have games that take longer to make, they cost more to make, but there's not more people buying these AAA games. So what's the answer? There isn't really an answer. That's the problem, right? And this is why I always make fun of these journalists being hack, cheap, and lazy because they're not acknowledging the problem. And I'm not paid as a journalist to know this, but they are, and they don't acknowledge it. And that's what infuriates me. Like it's so lazy. And like you could look if I was like an anti Xbox YouTube channel, and I were to put my thumbnail, Game Pass bad, Game Pass doomed, Xbox doomed, right? I could lazily talk for like hours about how Game Pass is bad, make up a bunch of random facts that based on nothing, even though developers have praised the service that actually use the service, and that's easier. But actually acknowledging because I've just said the actual problem with the industry is free to play games, but there's no fix. That's the problem. Like, Logan, I've been rambling for 10 minutes about this stuff, but what's your take on the whole black hole gamers and ball gun gamer thing? Because I've been trying to illustrate a point for months and years, if even, and it's like these journalists, they're not acknowledging this. The cost of games has gone up. So, like, do they start charging us way more for games? I don't think that'll work. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive issue. I mean, this is the whole journalism thing is a sick joke. Like, honestly, I would say you can probably count on one hand, maybe two if you want to be very generous. Like, quote, real journalists in gaming. Like, just straight up, like an actual honest to goodness, schooled or learned on their own, equivalent, like by doing the job, like people who hunt down the facts, find out the facts, report stuff, and, get responses and make corrections or, have, you know, journalistic integrity, like standards about doing things versus just the San Fran blog boy cabal kind of like where it's just like they know who butters their bread point blank and you can leave it at that. But and it's very obvious and it's disingenuous it's ridiculous. Like, you have look, okay, we know layoffs are bad. Like, nobody's like, you know what? I hope they just fire 3,000 people today. And I can tweet about it and laugh and giggle and say, look at these suckers. They lost their job. Nobody's saying that. Nobody wants that. And obviously, it's disappointing when people lose jobs. And you're right to feel a certain way about it, especially if in some circumstances, more than others, it looks like I'm not quite sure I see the vision for why this studio was hit when some others weren't, or how this was handled in regards to some stuff. I get that totally. But at the same time, you can't be perma mad about stuff. Like, these people, like, you have to move on eventually. Like, they're not just gonna have survivor syndrome and like just sit there and do nothing for eternity because this happened. You know, they gotta earn their keep and earn their pay and bring bread home to their families and advance their careers. Like, they want to get going too. And yet you have these sites and everything like trying to spin anything positive that comes from Xbox since this happened as somehow a negative or sordid, vile, evil thing. Like, somehow trying to make playing backwards compatible stuff bad. Or, like, oh, Bethesda finally got their head out of the vault and showed a roadmap, honest to goodness roadmap. And, some screws were tightened and things that seem to be on track now. And to me, that's a great thing. But then some places are like, no, you need to still be mad. And they continually farm hate and anger and faux outrage, I would say. And like, you can't have any goodness, only bad. Everything is bad. Even when it's good, it's actually bad. And, like, Kotaku is one of the worst ones. Like, like, they're obvious. Like, somehow spinning a Nintendo thing into a World War II dissertation
Yeah.
thing about all kinds of stuff, or this BC thing, or key jangling. IGN's been a frequent flyer on this type of stuff too. It's obvious what they're doing. Eurogamer, what happened to Eurogamer? They used to be up there with Game Informer. They used to be really good back in the day. Like, those were two of the biggest pillars. And for all the crap that happened with GameStop and their affiliation with Game Informer stayed true to the fight, resurrected, and they're continuing on as what they are, and they're good. Eurogamer is a shadow of themselves, what they used to be. And, you know, it is what it is, but yeah, I'm just tired of the hyperbole and the constant negativity, toxicity. If something sucks and is bad and needs to be addressed, let's have at it. Let's discuss it. Let's bring it to light. But at some point you gotta move on.
Yeah.
Like, this horse is mush and maggots and just nasty, like putrid, rotting at this point. It's like, we get it, dude. You're mad. We don't like it either, but we're moving on and enjoying things in life. You should too.
Yeah, we have the first super chat of the day by Nick W. Thank you very much for the 4.99. He says, I do think an issue nowadays is that many good games come out and there isn't enough time to play everything. Yeah, so you have like not more people getting into the game, and you have more AAA games coming out, more big games, and a lot of these, they launch pretty close together, and yeah, you're right. Like, not enough people have enough time or money to play them all. Like, look at May alone, right? I think in the span of 2 weeks, or maybe even a week, you had Lego Batman, Legacy of the Dark Knight, and 007 launch, like right next to each other. And I know that there were people that had to choose between those two. So like I completely get it. Like if you look at some months this year, right? February was absolutely packed. This month is absolutely packed. Next month's packed. October's packed. November is suspiciously empty. But like it is an issue. So you have more games coming out, and look, yep, more games come out today than they were 15 years ago. You know, like Logan, you remember this? Can you remember on like the 7th gen? Like we had great games all the time, but you would have droughts that would last maybe weeks or even a month in between big releases.
Yeah, it was almost like they coordinated, but not really, with the movie industry, to where it was like back then, like the summer would be a massive drought, and there would be like this is backlog time, and then it would be the holiday, like starting in fall or late summer when everybody's back in school in August, that you would start seeing the big hitters start hitting. And like it was always around my birthday in November when like the major stuff would release. And yeah, we're a far cry from that. And now we just have games all the time, every day, which is not a bad thing, but it definitely gets things lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I mean to play everything that I've got already, I'd have to clone myself. That
Yeah,
ain't
no kidding.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that ain't it. That ain't happening. You know? And like all the games that's coming out this year, like it's hard to play them all, right? Um, you know, I think that there isn't, unfortunately, there isn't really a fix to any of this stuff. Which is probably one of the reasons why these hack journalists keep just blaming Game Pass. Like there's no fix to the black hole games thing. There's no fix to there being too many games out. Like before, a couple of years ago, you'd say that most games would come out in October, November. Then we'd have a large drought throughout the year where you get the occasional drip feed of a big title. And now it's like you getting big titles every month of the year, except December. Right? A lot of big publishers stay away from December still, but like in general, there's a big game coming out all the time, which it's why it really annoys me when you hear someone say there's nothing to play. It's like
I was like, you're smoking something if you're saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like broaden your horizons. Yeah, next February looks absolutely bonkers. You've got God of War, Fable, yeah, Tomb Raider remake, yeah, Persona 4 revival. I'm pretty sure there's like I think that Exodus is meant to come out then as well. Like in that game, we all know I'm going to show that game hard. I joke, obviously, wink, wink, but like there's a lot of big games coming out next year. Resident Evil, and like many more games. Like these months are getting packed. Are there too many games coming out? You know. By the way, we have a super chat by Hacky Sack. Thank you very much for the $2. He says, "In my opinion, I think the gaming industry needs right sized." I mean, something needs to happen. There's like too many games coming out. Like you look at the Xbox store right now. This is a bit of a tangent. If you look at the Xbox store and PlayStation, I don't know what the Nintendo one's like, and Steam, right? There's hundreds and hundreds and there's thousands and thousands of games on there, right? Most of them don't get seen, right? You have tens of thousands of developers, different studios making these games. Most of them don't get seen. And like you have all these people just like playing these free to play games. I don't know, like something needs to change in the industry. Just this is why I keep thinking, we're heading towards that crash. That crash I've been talking about for 2 years, because let's say that the crash does happen. Let's say next week, right? The AAA game industry crashes, right? You're still gonna get indie games. You're still gonna get AA games, and you've got like a huge library of games to choose from. Until like the AAA space, they figure out a way to get things done. Because look, we've talked about how these games are taking way too long to get made, right? And a byproduct of these games taking longer to get made is that they cost more, right? Way more time to keep the lights on, way more money, and you're paying these developers for years. And like, look, there's people at Bethesda right now on strike because of all the layoffs, and that I've seen these interviews with these people, standing outside, and they're saying, look, we want to get back to making great games. And I saw this post, and I wish I can remember who wrote it, but they had a valid point. It's like, these people at Bethesda, they want job security, or they want the jobs back and all that stuff. And it's like, they haven't been putting out games. Like, we haven't...
Yeah, there's a reason for all the memes about Asha and Todd Howard. All right, just
Yeah.
there's a reason.
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm not being like unsympathetic to these people, but like, you have like how many people work at Bethesda? Hundreds. How long does it take for an Elder Scrolls game to get made? Clearly over a decade. Like, I don't know. It's like, I just don't understand how you can have these studios that are just sitting there for a decade, where people like, I've been wanting Fallout games, you've been wanting Fallout games, people in the chat have been wanting Fallout games. And it's like, where are these games, right? And thankfully, Asher Sharma is like leaning into big IP at Microsoft, so that we're actually going to get big games, which people have been wanting. But like, these are games that already should have been in development. These are surefire bets for the industry that people are going to buy. But it's like, how long are these games going to take to get made? It's this weird, vicious cycle, right? And it's like, until something changes, until like, we have to all accept a hit on graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and every time I mention this, people think I'm like the super like AI dude. Like, I don't like AI really. Like, I think it could be a useful tool. I think that, and I think if anything, I think AI can be used in the medical space. But like, when it comes to game development, like, we have to take a hit on visuals or accept game AI for tools, right? I don't necessarily think either of those things will happen, but something's got to give. And by the way, do you know, if there was a hit on graphics, it wouldn't bother me.
Hey, I play so many retro stuff anyway. You think I care?
Yeah, I mean, look, I somehow have this like super power to make everything about Mass Effect, but like, really, if I were to see like the next Mass Effect game and it visually looked no better than 3, it wouldn't bother me. I just want a good game. You can have good games with lesser graphics. And yeah, it is cool to see things like Gears of War E-Day, which I'll be talking about in a minute, but like, not every game needs to be this super realistic game that takes 5 years to make, Whenever I talk about shorter development time that we had in the 7th gen, people always reply saying, but there was crunch. There's always crunch.
I was like, buddy, let me tell you about some other industries out there.
Yeah.
It's called overtime.
Yeah, and these people get paid, and I just want a good game, right? I don't care if, let's say, Red Dead Redemption 3 gets announced tomorrow, right? And it's no better looking than 2. I don't care. I don't care. In fact, I think that game's still one of the best looking games ever made. I still think Mass Effect 3 looks good, right? Just give me a good game, right? All this, like, I feel like it's like needless development, like just look, we aren't going to talk about this just yet, but like, we talk about next gen, right? Like, the reason to get into next gen with the Xbox and PS2 was what? It was better graphics, right? It was noticeably better graphics, right? You had higher polygon counts. You had characters that were wearing clothes as opposed to being painted on, because back then, on like the PS1 and N64, characters basically looked like they had the clothes painted on. So we had like noticeably better graphics. We had more open worlds, better audio, right? And then with the 360 and PS3, what was that generation about? It was about HD gaming, where we had bigger open worlds, more fleshed out open worlds that felt alive, right? The Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 were what? The HD 60 generation, where all of a sudden all these developers start making super realistic super realistic graphics, which I never understood, and when the Xbox One X came out and the PlayStation 4 Pro, the into that console was 4K gaming, right? and I thought the One X was great. It was great playing games in 4K rather than 720p. So like that was mind blowing to me. So what was the series generation? It was 4K again, but 120 with bells and whistles and some HDR. And by the way, before this generation came out, you look at my posts; they're still there. I was so hyped about ray tracing. I was so hyped. I was like giddy I was giddy as a kid on Christmas Day, about to open some presents. And do you know what happened when I got to experience games with ray tracing? I was like, I'd prefer to take games at 60. I'll take 4K 60 over 4K ray tracing any day of the week. And so what's the in to next gen? Nobody can tell me. Right? I've asked people in the industry, nobody can tell me. I've asked like hardcore gamers, nobody can tell me. Like, what is the in to next gen? Like, Logan, do you know?
Well, I am very wisdomous, but I don't know. Like, maybe the thing for next gen truly is the idea of just merging, like kind of what they were thinking of with Helix, like the idea of, a console PC hybrid where it's like, okay, so we're not making that big of leaps in tech anymore, or like graphic fidelity, or certain features or experiences. But what we can do is make it to where your entire library is bridged, and then you can play on the go with play anywhere on a mobile device or a handheld. You've got, integration where bringing, well, this is another topic that we have down the line, but achievements, for example, for OG titles, like that's a thing that was not thought of as possible for a long time. Like maybe some stuff like that. But as far as like what's the new fad that some marketing guy's gonna sit up there on a stage and say, like, 500 times real fast to try to brainwash you into thinking is great. I have no idea.
Well, one of the things we're probably going to see is path tracing, right?
Oh,
Now,
so ray tracing to path tracing now.
yeah,
Okay.
and like I've seen like Cyberpunk gameplay use path tracing, and let me tell you that makes a game look realistic. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've just been looking at the industry closer over the past couple of years, but like, I just don't really care about graphics that much anymore. You know?
You want to hear a sad stat?
Yeah.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, what was the gap between Morrowind and Oblivion years wise, and then Oblivion and Skyrim years wise?
I can't tell you when Morrowind came out. I know
Um,
Oblivion Skyrim was 5 years.
yeah. Morrowind came out May 1st, 2002. Um, Oblivion released on March 20th, 2006, so a 4 year, 8 month gap. And then Skyrim came out 11/11/11, so a 5 year and change gap. And then it is now Year of Our Lord 2026, and we still do not have Elder Scrolls 6.
Yikes. And the thing is, when that game comes out, will it feel like it's been in development for over a decade? No, actually, it went into pre-production a long time ago and started full production when Starfield came out. So like, it's so depressing, man. Like looking at. I think that's another reason why I don't care about graphics as much anymore, because I just know that if I play a game today, I'm not getting a sequel for a decade. You know,
Mm-hmm.
007 First Light, I'm almost finished with it. Right? How old are we all going to be when that gets a sequel? If it gets one. And hopefully it does get a sequel, because my God in heaven, that is a good game. Like, look at Gears, right? I've got Gears gameplay, and which I'll talk about in a second on screen. But like, Gears of War 5 came out in 2019. Like, the fact that we almost skipped an entire generation for Gears. Look at Gears games, right? On the 360, we had 4 Gears of War games. Last gen, we had 2. This gen, we get 1. Isn't that mind-blowing?
It is dysfunctional as heck. It's got to get better than this.
Yeah, and it's just that's one step towards the whole, game crash, which I 100% think is going to happen. And do you know what? Part of me, a very small part of me, really wants it to happen, just to see what'll happen. Like,
No kidding. I mean, you remember BioWare we talked about earlier. Did you see that report about the fact that there won't be a Dragon Age remaster collection because no one there knows how to use the engine or make it work again?
yeah,
I was like, dude, come on, man.
yeah. And the sad thing is, a Dragon Age collection would sell like hotcakes. My God.
100%.
And yeah, it's just, I don't want to call it lazy development, but it just feels like we're not seeing the development we used to see. And I'm just sick and tired of the game industry at this point. But you know what? We've still got a bunch of topics to talk about, so let's move on. And I'm sure we'll rant about this again next week. But Sony kind of messed up on social media, and I thought we'll talk about it because, physical media is still something I care about. And basically, Sony on Twitter start posting about a record player. They have this fancy new record player coming out that plays all your vinyl discs. All that good stuff. Now, do you not see the irony in that? They're coming out with a brand new physical vinyl player, and they're advertising it as in, hey, get to play your entire vinyl collection now with this new piece of hardware. So they got absolutely demolished in the comments because there's so much irony there. And look, I'm seeing this pushback on physical media. We see people asking Xbox about physical media. I love the fact that we see the conversation about physical media up again because, look, I think physical media matters. I think we should be given the choice no matter what. And, yeah, it was tone deaf. Absolutely tone deaf. And granted, a lot of these social media accounts, they do have posts scheduled for specific times. But I've never seen, like, Sony can get away with murder, right? They can raise the price of games to 70, they get away with it. They raise the price of their console several times, they get away with it. They raise the price of PSN, they get away with it, right? It also helps that they have every journalist, mostly across the US, on their side. But, like, this is the one thing I haven't seen them really get away with. People are speaking up. They're saying they don't want, Sony to take away the disk drive. And, like the fact that they outright saying, hey, third-party developers next gen, we can't sell discs, right? And I could tell you that a lot of people still rely on discs. For one, like, if you want to get someone a gift for Christmas when it comes to a video game, congratulations, you buying a plastic box with a code inside. That's e-waste, right? At least with a disc, you have something tangible, something you can use, and something you can actually install from. But a code in a box thing is stupid. That's just stupid in my opinion. Like the fact that GTA as well, that's a code in a box, that's stupid. But this is the one thing I've seen Sony not get away with. Anyway, so it came out the other day that Sony apparently aren't seeing enough blowback to the point where they're going to go back on anything yet. And apparently, people in the PlayStation fandom want to have this blackout where they don't use any PlayStation products or sign in from the 20th till I think the 27th. That is a novel idea. However, this is the problem. There's nothing coming out that time that's really significant, right? There's a ton of games coming out later this month, but like if you really wanted to make a stand, right, you would do this strike when Wolverine or GTA was out, right? And have millions of people not download those games, not play those games. Hell, if you want to get Wolverine, get it on disc. Get it on disc. right? They're doing discs for it. Get it on disc. Comes in a nice case. The artwork looks cool. Why not? But like, if people want to make a stand, they can't do it on a week where no major marquee title comes out. They need to do it when there's actually something happening, right? So people need to vote with the wallets. People need to keep mentioning this stuff because I don't want discs to go away. Like I still have hundreds of discs. I have hundreds of discs across my OG Xbox, my 360, my Xbox One, my Xbox Series discs. I have my 4K Blu-rays, right? I still get 4K Blu-rays as well. I just don't want to see physical media go away, and people really need to vote with the wallet, right? I do hope Microsoft leans into this and actually does a disk drive next gen. According to John Linneman of Digital Foundry, that Xbox apparently were still thinking about doing a disk drive. If that is the case, lovely, because I want a disk drive. And look, if Xbox comes out next generation and they have a disk drive, great. But like people just need to push for this stuff. And if people only buy digital games, cool. But I don't know why people want to have an option taken away. If you don't want discs, don't use them. But you should want the option. Games get delisted. How do you play these delisted games now? With a disc. Logan, what's your take on this whole thing? Because people are still, pushing back on the PlayStation thing, but people need to be really vocal about this stuff.
Yeah, I got a lot on this one. Basically, I think there are a lot of people who are truly upset about it and really are pushing against it and want physical to stay. And, that is how they get their library or collect. Or, there's just something way more personable about gifting, like you said, a game, like physically versus just a code. And it's just, I don't know, something about opening that brand new game, that smell. Back, you have a manual, like like the golden era. Like there's just something about that is lost. And digital is way easier. We're going to talk about Positron and how that's a great thing, and I'm all for it. But like the idea of people championing the idea of you having an option taken away, just period, is ridiculous. At the end of the day, it's about control. And this might be tinfoil hat, but I think that post about the vinyls was a Sony like, oh, you want physical disc? We got your physical disc right here. it's a it's a vinyl, and just a super villain troll job is. It kind of feels like that to me. And you know, at the end of the day, I want it physical to stay. I'm more digital now than I used to be. But like if I can pick up a game on sale, especially with Positron, which we'll talk about, you know, becoming a thing, or I just want it on my display case with the rest of the franchise. There are, again, movies and shows that you can't get otherwise, or games that have been delisted. Like I use my Series X as my 4K player and my Blu-ray player and all that. Imagine where suddenly I just have to keep an old console hooked up just so I can watch movies and stuff from my collection instead of it carrying over to my new one. It's a problem. And Asha, Jason, if anybody at Xbox, if you're listening, please, like, at least make it an option. Like if you want to cut cost and make the box itself cheaper without it, okay. I understand. I would prefer it come default, but if it doesn't, I get it. But at the very least, make it an option, an optical attached disk drive. Like, I got a disk drive optical USB thing for my computer, like $20 on Amazon. I know it's not a Blu-ray thing, it's not a video game thing, but point remains, You can make these things. So just please make it an option at the very least via a USB and let people enjoy not only their games but their movies, their shows, music, everything like they used to. It would earn you a lot of goodwill and it would be an easy win when Sony is playing supervillain energy right now. Disc lives matter, okay? Let's keep physical going.
Yeah, we have another super chat by Hacky Sack for $2. Thank you very much. It says the issue really isn't discs; it's ownership. I mean that's a
Yeah,
problem.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a problem on console. Like on PC, like if you're on Steam, like you can get a bunch of games without DRM. You have GOG or GOG, which those are DRM free. On console, like you're paying for a license, and that is a problem. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these companies are gonna give over proper digital ownership. Um, that is a problem with consoles. Uh, but like something has to change. But again, people have to be vocal about this stuff. Like I don't know if like certain governments can get involved with this stuff, but man, like just what we're seeing right now, and people voting with their wallet and speaking up can make a difference, right? Look at Xbox in 2013, right? They didn't really announce their DRM thing. It was just rumors and stuff, right? And then they were talking about how there's a check-in, and then they were like, "Hey, it's a 24-hour check-in, and then it's a 12-hour check-in, and then a week, right? All the mixed messaging, right?" And I think it was in the late July or early August where they were like, "Hey, we're not doing this anymore," right? People were vocal. People need to be that vocal. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that same energy. And, one of the things we've seen from these media outlets, they aren't approaching the situation the same way. You have places like Kotaku, which, for people that don't know, Kotaku is a hack journalist website where they are blogs run by a bunch of A-hats. And they don't do the job. They are clearly funded by evil, but like the peddling, I've never liked the whole peddling, clickbait, forced negativity and stuff, like not covering gaming, but like they should be covering this whole like DRM thing and no disc thing. They're not. They're complaining about how Xbox wants to offer backwards compatibility, right? We aren't seeing this. Like if you go back to IGN in 2013, there was articles every single day about the DRM thing. We aren't seeing this about the disc thing, right? We see more people asking Asher Sharma about exclusives than talking about discs. Absolute hack journalists. No spines whatsoever. You know what? We still have a bunch of topics to go through, so we'll quickly get into the Gears of War thing. So, Gears of War. Now, Logan, you don't watch wrestling, but did you know that Gears of War had an absolute massive marketing campaign over SummerSlam?
Yeah, I saw a trailer online and I think it was I can't remember. I don't know the wrestlers' names, but like the blonde guy or a blonde guy, he like slammed somebody on a Gears of War mat or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar. And
Okay.
by the way, what a boring match! These two people had a match in a Hell in the Cell, and they didn't use the cage. What were they thinking? But outside of that, like the whole set turned red like gears. There were huge lances on the set. Like Microsoft is spending money on marketing. Who would have thought this could be a thing? So like they going all out for Gears of War marketing, which is great. Um, and I think if you're gonna have a huge marquee exclusive such as Gears of War E-Day, you need to treat it that way. You need to market it that way. And so far, we're seeing Microsoft do it, which is great. Gears of War E-Day was in the middle of the ring. It was on the aprons of the ring, which are now screens, and also the barriers as well. So like I've never seen this kind of marketing from Xbox, which is great. Like this is not cheap marketing at all. SummerSlam is one of the biggest sporting events of the year, and yeah, great show, great marketing. But anyway, just before the show went live, I managed to actually play some Gears of War E-Day. Now, I got to play the tutorial, and you know how ever since we saw the gameplay last month, people are like, the gameplay is different. It looks evolved. I can happily tell you, it's evolved. My God in heaven. So when you play Gears of War, you know how you click the A button, you typically stick to a wall. It's not that magnetized anymore. It's really smooth. The fact that you can make your character jump, right, is fresh. It works. By the way, the default Gears of War E-Day controls are different to what you're used to. So it will throw people off at first, but you can change it in the settings. There's a default setting called Legacy. I switched it to that straight away, and the only difference is press Y is jump. But they did a fantastic job with the movement in this game. The roadie run is a lot smoother. It's kind of like a normal sprint, but the weapons feel great. The throwing the grenade feels smoother. They've done a bang-up job with the movement in Gears of War E-Day. Now, I would have asked Logan if he's played it, but literally the test just went live just before. If you have Game Pass, you can play the tutorial and all that stuff to get ready for the beta, and they're doing a kind of a small-scale tech test right now. But Logan, I'm guessing you didn't play it, right?
No, I have not. I literally just saw it right before we hopped on. So
Yeah. Well, one of the new default controls is running with the left stick, that's how you sprint in most games. Let me tell you, I'm used to sprinting in every other game, but the second I play a Gears game, muscle memory kicks in, and I want to hold A to sprint. So thankfully you can do default controls because it threw me off. So like I've got gameplay going on during the podcast, and people will notice when I have to climb certain barriers. My brain just doesn't turn on when it comes to seeing these prompts. But my God, the graphics are phenomenal. You can choose between quality and performance in horde and multiplayer. I only got to play in performance mode, but it was smooth as butter. So this is an Unreal Engine 5 game, and it performs perfectly. Perfectly. I know there's been a meme for a long time now about Unreal Engine 5 games performing terribly. Fortunately, a lot of games have been getting better. Halo Campaign Evolved runs basically perfectly unless you're trying to take a screenshot during a cutscene. And Arc Raiders, that's perfect. But Gears of War movement, great. Sound effects in the game, so good. And by the way, this isn't part of the beta as far as I'm aware. But did you know? Oh, well, I told Logan offline, but you can fight against bots if you want when the game comes out. This is something that I think most games need to have. We used to have this in multiplayer games all the time. Maybe you don't want to play against a bunch of sweats. Maybe you just want to play against the computer. You can. The fact that there's no battle pass in the game, right? No pay to win, right? They will do some premium skins such as the Metallica stuff. But you earn everything while playing. Attachments, perks, right? Modifiers. You earn by playing the game. What a novel concept, right? Earning stuff in the game you've bought to use them. So it looks like the Coalition are doing a great job with this game, and 12-player horde looks amazing. Logan, have you got anything else to say on Gears? Because you haven't played it yet, but I'm sure you've paid attention to the media out there.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks awesome. I can't wait for E-Day. I think the Metallica stuff is sick. Enter Sandman is one of my favorite songs. So I love Metallica, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm curious, what was the controller switch, the layout? Was it as drastic as the Gears Judgment to the other ones, where it was a complete rewiring of your brain, how it worked?
More so, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But if you put it back on legacy controls, the only thing that's different is you press Y to jump. Okay. So if you want classic style controls, you can. It's just now you can jump. which is what I put it as. And you know what's funny, right? When I see all people are like going nuts over Gears being able to, like, earn stuff in game and not do this battle pass thing. We've been so conditioned to play multiplayer with battle passes, and for Gears, they're doing stuff that we used to do years ago, earn to unlock stuff, right? And like
Nature's healing, Jamie.
such a novel concept. And I don't really care about multiplayer. It's like I'm there for the campaign and Horde. I love Horde. I dig Horde. And like Horde for me, like you're gonna have like this huge city-sized maps where you can work with other teams together. I think that's where my preferences are at the minute. Anyway, it's like the co-op centric gameplay. And like being able to work with other teams, flank enemies as other teams are fighting them. So like, it looks like the perfect evolution for Gears. It looks like they've done a great job with that. And man, and by the way, due to feedback, they actually including PvP straight away with the beta, right? So like, they're paying attention to feedback, and yeah, changing everything. So like, look, I love what they're doing. The Coalition deserve every bit of praise they get. And, I have seen some people say that, yeah, well, it should be that way anyway. Do you know how tempting it must have been for a corporation such as Microsoft or Xbox to, like, say, hey, you're going to have a Battle Pass? Like, a Battle Pass is a hidden subscription most people don't talk about, right? Like, Warzone, right? What do you get in Warzone's Battle Pass? The one thing people really want, it's not the skins. It's not the emblems, it's the attachments. Some of the best weapon attachments in Call of Duty are in the Battle Pass, right? So if you want to make the quote-unquote meta, I'm doing air quotes for people that can't see me, you have to pay a subscription to unlock it, right? Which is crazy if you think about it, considering it's a game you've purchased. But yeah, so if you buy Gears, you're going to have everything there. And yeah, you will have some, some fancy skins such as the Metallica stuff. By the way, here's a little bit of lore for people about me. When I was a kid, I made and ran a Metallica fan website.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Whenever I tell people that, by the way, they always look so confused. Like, you did what? Like, it seems like apparently it's the least me thing ever. But yeah, I ran a Metallica fan website. It was terrible. it was so bad.
Were you in a cover band too, or
no? I'm tone deaf. People don't want to hear me sing, and I can't play an instrument. I used to be able to play the piano, but I forgot when I got to college. It happens. But yeah, Metallica fan website, that was fun. But yeah, look, Metallica skins, that's gonna go hard. I think they're probably going to go with like a lot of metal bands. That would make sense, Iron Maiden and stuff. I'm partial to Linkin Park at the minute. But yeah, they're doing everything right with Gears Day, and so many times in the past you've seen developers mess up something, be it the monetization or I don't know, just the way they're going to treat content going forward. But no, they're listening to feedback, and it must have been so tempting to do a battle pass when everyone's doing a battle pass for everything. I hate battle passes as a practice, by the way. I think it's terrible. Premium games should not have battle passes. And thankfully that's not the case. But yeah, we'll talk about Gears more next week when I've had a chance to play. But my God, what a good time to be a Gears fan. Let's see what we've got next, because we still have a bunch of big topics. We do have Gears of War, almost game and journalism integrity, but there isn't really any. Do you want to mention anything quickly on the game and journalism integrity thing?
I think we've covered that boat pretty well at this point.
Yeah. You know what? Let's quickly talk about this. So Positron, this is a new thing by Xbox, which has apparently been in development for a while, which will give you digital rights to a disc-based game. Now, this is... I've seen people go back and forth, like, whether this is good or bad. I think it's just an option, One of the things that you were going to be able to do with the Xbox One was go between games, put it in a disc install it, take out the disc, and still play it. And I thought that was a cool thing back in 2013. Clearly, the internet wasn't ready. And anyway, so like if you have your, let's say, Alan Wake remastered disc, you're going to be able to put in that disc, install the game, take out the disc, and still play it. Xbox One and Xbox Series discs have unique identifiers, so basically, as long as you don't trade that to another person, and as long as that person doesn't put it in their console, you can play the game digitally. I think that is a really cool way of doing it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for OG and 360 games because of the way discs work, but I think Project Positron is a good step in the right direction, considering all the media talk around, digital and discs and stuff. But it does beg the question: wouldn't you need a disk drive to do all this stuff?
Yes, and that's where the crux comes in. The yeah, but. Um, I wonder if it would be like, I know we don't talk about PlayStation too often on here, but like when I upgraded from a PS4 Pro to a PS5, like they had a thing where you could, hop on your PS4 and prepare your library for PS5 and stuff, and like, transfer things over, get them rigged and set up and primed ready to go for the next console. I'm wondering if maybe that's what they're thinking, something along those lines, like, okay, until you get your Helix, like, go ahead and upload stuff that you have on disk to your account and then play them digitally, and then poof, you have access to them. They're secured, yada yada. And then once you've uploaded them all, or tested them out digitally or whatever, you should be good to go for your Helix. I wonder if that's what they're going for, but again, that puts some limits on some things. I hope there's a disk drive option for people, but the idea of getting a digital right for something, especially Play Anywhere or games that you own physically, to where it doesn't limit you, because it's like, hey, I bought the game point blank. I should be able to have all the access and features of anybody else who bought this game. And the fact that they're doing that is great. It's something I had asked people at Xbox about in the past years ago, about hypothetically, like, could y'all do a movies anywhere type thing, but for games? And, the fact that, lo and behold, it seems like we might actually get that is, I think, great.
Yeah. So like obviously we'll see this play out a bit more over the coming months, but it is an option. While we're talking about all this stuff. Oh, by the way, Xbox just announced that they're doing Tokyo Game Show again this year.
Yep, I'm very happy. And if I were a betting man, I would say that's where you get Stellar Blade.
Yeah,
If if we do get it on Xbox, which I think we will, I would say that would be where they announce it.
yeah. So that's going to be on the 17th of September, and yeah, I will take Stellar Blade, please and thank you. Let's see what we've got next. Okay, we talked about Positron thing. Is backwards compatibility back now? I love backwards compatibility because like one of the reasons why I always talk about it so much is that when the Xbox One came out, um, it came out after I was in my post Call of Duty phase, right? And I missed out on a lot of like single player games in the second half of the Xbox 360 generation. So like when they start doing backwards compatibility in 2015, I was able to play a bunch of games I missed out on, right? And I love that. It's my favorite generation of games. So any opportunity to play something I've missed out on is great. Well, PCs are going to have the ability to. By the way, all this stuff leaked like 2 nights ago. PCs are going to get the ability to play Xbox 360 games, which I think's cool. Which means PC players can actually finally play Lost Odyssey. Which I seem to talk about Lost Odyssey way too much, or maybe not enough. But Lost Odyssey, in my opinion, is one of the best JRPGs ever made. Now they can actually play it. And I think it's a cool option, you know. Xboxes are basically PCs already. The x86 boxes already. So, like, I feel like, you know, this is a good step. But this begs the question, like, will we actually see more titles? Because they haven't to run through the whole license thing again, so they haven't to relicense these games for the Helix, which the same thing happened with the series consoles, and with PC as well. So, like, you've got to wonder, are we going to see more games added? Because we've heard about the Activision batch for the longest time. It never happened. We've seen people from Xbox completely ignore the whole... Like, typically, if they weren't going to do backwards compatible games, more of them, they would have acknowledged it and said no outright, and they haven't. The fact that Xbox request website has been mentioned multiple times by staff at Xbox, right? So, actually, before we continue, we have another super chat by Nick W for $4.99. Thank you very much. He says, "I love it because I was able to go back and replay games like Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey is my jam, right? And, you know, one of the things with that game is it's on 4 discs, right? 4 CDs. 4 DVDs. And, like, one of the biggest problems with backwards compatibility back in 2015, which is why that was one of the longest games to get BC, is that they couldn't figure out how to do multi-disc games. Which, if you think about it, all you really need to do is to require disc 1. Like, pretty simple if you think about it. But, like, look, Lost Odyssey runs great on BC. And more people will get to play it now. You know, people have told me that they got into Lost Odyssey because of the Xbox One and stuff. So, like, it's just, you know, giving people more options. And the more people that get to play Lost Odyssey on Xbox, the better. I love Lost Odyssey. I could talk about that game all day. The fact that they have heart-wrenching stories that you just read, right? You know, these short stories, which are amazing. I'd still like a remaster of that game. Microsoft still needs to work with Mistwalker in some capacity, in my opinion. But yeah, like, so many people get to like I talk about before. Like, I missed out on so many games in the later half in the 360 generation, but that was a great generation for games. My God, you know, those Transformers games I always talk about. I have no idea why I never played them back in the day, considering they are my cup of tea. Third-person shooter, single player, play as a damn Transformer, right? But for some reason I didn't play them, and, you know, I blame my Call of Duty days because of that. But I think, you know, backwards compatibility is great. You get to, you know, play games that you've missed out on. You get to replay some of your games. You know, having these things on PC as well, that means you're going to have basically play anywhere for all 360 games that are backwards compatible, which is great. Like, Logan, I'm pretty sure you probably want to fire up some 360 games on your VOG.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I've got some in mind, you know.
Yeah, and, like, people are going to use it. It's going to be great. But, like, will we see more BC games? I think we possibly will. It is the 25th anniversary of Xbox this year, and, you know, thinking of, you know, Nick mentioned this, Lost Odyssey, like, there's still a bunch of JRPGs that you still can't play on Xbox because they aren't backwards compatible. So there's plenty more of those games they could bring over. Logan, do you think we're going to see more games brought over this year?
In my heart, I believe so. Again, you know, nothing's 100%. You don't know. Like, if you're not in the room, you don't know. But it feels like, based on vibes that are out there, it feels like the stars are aligning for it. They haven't denied things. They mentioned BC and new ways to play new games all the way back at GDC. They've had more and more stuff. They have Positron. They've got um 25th anniversary stuff coming up. They're having batches of games added to cultivate, you know, certain eras of Xbox, like curating stuff. They're making the retro Series X, vibe. The logo itself resembles the original Xbox. Like, especially with Y2K and stuff in vogue right now, it just seems a no brainer. Again, some people always cling to this whole, but they said they exhausted. I'm like, yes, but there's a big old thing happened, but since then, like years of legal fighting to get a deal done, and spending 70 billion on this massive catalog that gives you ownership of things you didn't have before, things that should have zero problems getting BC if they want them BC. And there are, um, also, you mentioned that they're talking with developers and publishers about getting their 360 games, up and running and for sale on PC, or, Play Anywhere incorporated and stuff. Wouldn't it come with some logical sense that if you're already having talks and negotiations with some of these partners, or their 360 and OG lineup to be, Play Anywhere and PC eligible, that you might, shake some trees and see what else falls loose? And like while you're having those conversations, I mean, just saying that seems to be pretty logical, make a lot of sense to me. And they keep hyping up the 25th anniversary and the event itself, and more teases, and bringing back the major franchises. Crash and Spyro, they've been mentioned a lot for, like big IPs. We're getting Spyro 4 now. You've got a whole bunch of Spyro games on Xbox 360 you can make BC. Crash, there's a ton of games that you can make BC. We mentioned Wolfenstein '09 and Return. Those are should be no-brainers. Quake 4 should be a no-brainer. Singularity should be a no-brainer. I know a lot of people want the licensed stuff, and hey, I want all they can possibly make. But at the end of the day, if they at least get the no-brainer stuff, the Activision owned and Bethesda owned stuff, first party stuff, I'm happy. Like, I'll put it on record. I would be severely disappointed if they don't make anything else BC. 25th anniversary comes, and all it was titles put to PC and handheld. Don't get me wrong. Those are really cool features, and I love them. Getting achievements for OG, been asking for ages. I love all that. If that's all it was, cool. But I'm not gonna lie, I would be very disappointed if they wouldn't bother to add some more titles that they could shake loose to the library at the end of the day. So I personally think there will be more added, but we'll see. The best thing you can do, my friends, is keep being vocal and keep posting about it, tweeting about it, going to the voter site and voting and spreading the word. Like, I'm not just flexing my old library by posting these pictures, of old titles.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shake the rims, like, hey, we have interest and stuff. So do what you can, and we'll see where the chips fall.
You know what's funny is I don't think we've had a show since the whole announcement of the achievements thing.
Yeah, chef's kiss, buddy. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, Jade Empire, Morrowind. Let's go.
Yeah, Max Payne 1 and 2. So yeah, for people that don't know, OG Xbox games are getting achievements. Thank God. um, I know it might be a bit of a task to put them in, but hey, if they can put like the great, like the better cutscenes in Final Fantasy 13 in a 360 file, they can do achievements on old games. Uh, thank God. And I think it's going to make a lot of people revisit those games because I think a lack of achievements really stops some people. Um,
Hmm.
and like, look, the fact that I'm going to be able to play KOTOR with achievements, my God. And hell, you'll be able to actually play, the Battlefront games with achievements that work.
I
Because
know it's amazing. I will say that I would reckon that the achievements will be mixed. Like, if I were to guess, I would say you'll probably get some games with some pretty creative and fun ones. And, like, oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're doing here. And then some that are like, hey, you beat the mission, you beat the campaign, good job. Pat
yeah,
on the back. Like, I reckon it'll be a mix.
yeah. Hey, I'm perfectly fine with that. You know,
Yeah, me too.
like chapter based achievements, I'm perfectly fine with. I'm guessing I'm just going to use KOTOR, but like KOTOR, I'm guessing you'll get them for finishing main quests, finishing certain planets, that type of thing. Getting your kyber
Light
crystal.
side, dark side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe an achievement for each ending. That type of thing. But hey, we've been asking for this for years and years, and yeah, it's finally happening. Um, yeah, Max Payne 1's going to be great with achievements. Isn't what was that game with the dog? Dead to Rights. Uh,
Oh man, that game was like Max Payne coded before Max Payne. It was really good.
yeah, and like people are going to be able to replay that, and just that was a weird era for video games. There's always something like strange out, but that was part of its charm. And if we are going to see more games added, uh, I will continue to ask for these games. The Chronicles of Riddick games. My God, please. Um, Do you know what's funny? The Riddick game from the OG Xbox still looks good
Mhm.
due to its lighting. But yeah, hey, OG Xbox games, great. We'll mention this. Asher Sharma's been getting a lot of hate online from people inside the Xbox community. I've noticed because, there's people in the Xbox community that just like how things were ran by Phil, which is perfectly fine. Um, but I have to say this: she's changing everything I've wanted Xbox to change. So it just came out the other day that basically the core of Xbox, the main moneymaker of Xbox, is shocker to no one, because I've been telling people this for years, is the Xbox console itself, right? Which is what it's always been. It's what it's always should be. And so far, Asha Sharma, she's done everything I've wanted Xbox to change for years. Going back to exclusives, treating the console gamer as the core user base, right? Let's talk like what was that marketing thing called? It was so bad I've already forgotten. Everything's an
Oh,
Xbox.
yeah, everything's an Xbox, or you don't need an Xbox,
Yeah,
basically.
and I did see people. I saw people react the other day that they're still doing streaming, so people think it's the same. It's not. You can do one thing and talk about it two different ways. One being good, one being bad. Everything's an Xbox, and you've got a picture of a kitty that a tray saying, "This is a cat box," right? I get it's meant to be cute. I get it, but no, stop it. Stop. I don't like it. Right? The messaging was terrible. But what we're seeing by Asha Sharma is that look, she's doing things right. Right? She was the person that got into Xbox, right? Where everyone was like, "Oh no, she's from AI. She's gonna ruin gaming." She's not a gamer. You have people from IGN have a go at her saying she's a fake gamer, even though she came out and said she's trying to learn. She's done more at Xbox in the past 110 days, or however many days it's done, than what we've seen from leadership at Xbox for the past 4 years. I'm sorry, but I have to praise her for that, right? She's doing proactive moves. She's wanting to grow Xbox. Like, Logan, when was the last time you heard Phil Spencer or Sarah Bond or anyone from Xbox say over the past 4 years saying they want to grow the console?
um, I would have a very hard time remembering because uh, it basically was intentionally or not, the messaging and the vibes were almost like kill the console and promote everything else instead of like you still have all these people on board with you in the hardcore console. Bring them along for the ride. Don't just go, too bad, it's sad, sink or swim, vibes. So we'll get more into leadership later, but yeah, I agree. It's like I can't remember the last time.
Yeah, and Nick mentioned in chat, which I've been mentioning since she took over, right? Reggie Fils-Aimé used to work for Pizza Hut, and he ran Nintendo of America through their most profitable era. So like, we don't need a hardcore gamer to run the thing. It's like when people complain that actors don't play video games when they play as those characters. Like, people were upset that Walton Goggins wouldn't play Fallout. Are you out of your mind? Right? Like, we shouldn't care. Get your job done and hope it's good. That's all we want, right? And
Honestly, I think. Sorry,
no,
I
no,
wasn't trying to interrupt. I was gonna say, honestly, I think it's proof in the idea that sometimes people can be a little too close to a situation, or can have been involved in an industry for so long they've got blinders on, or they've kind of they've gotten lost in the mess, like almost like a hoarder's house. Like these
yeah,
people, like they have all this stuff happening and everywhere, and it's an absolute disaster, horrible. And then a cleanup crew comes in and they're like, oh my gosh, you've been living like this, you poor person. Like, how do you function? How do you make this work? Let's get in here and clean things up and organize things and get things done in a better way. Like, because clearly you're just not seeing your hand from your face right now, and it feels like that. I'll just put it that way.
yeah. Um, and another thing as well. And by the way, I'm aware that what I'm about to say is going to sound harsh, but I don't mean it to be harsh. This whole let these studios make whatever the hell they want attitude hasn't worked, right? Hey,
It was a failure.
yeah, hey, let's make this pottery-based party brawling game instead of Psychonauts 3, right? Um, like, you buy these studios, why not put them on games that we know for a fact are going to make money, or that are going to have player retention in Game Pass, which is Microsoft's metric for success, right? Why not make games like that? Why did it take 10,000 years to get Obsidian on a new Fallout game? Why? Right? And, we're talking about the memes with Todd Howard and stuff, but the truth is, why haven't we seen any movement for Fallout in years? Years. Crazy, right? And I feel like, we actually see, I keep saying the proactive change, but like, I feel like at Xbox, we haven't seen anyone really go out of their way and say, like, look, when Asha Sharma took over, people were like, she's going to ruin gaming. But she's actually doing things people like, right? We want more core games like Fallout. We're getting Fallout. We're getting multiple Fallouts, right? Like, the fact that Kiln, and people have mentioned, I keep to just mention the party brawl and pottery game, but it's a good example, right? The fact that they, like, Double Fine were clearly bought because of Psychonauts, and then they were put on a pottery-based party brawling game and a game about a lighthouse. I can't see the correlation. It's like, yeah, you get these creative studios, but like, come on, you have these studios that have hundreds of people. Don't you want them to have games that engage players, right? Like, you're not gonna see. I'm trying to think of the right. I'll use Bungie as an example, but this is a horrific example. But like, you have Bungie that had over 800 employees, right? Wouldn't you make a game that would make money because their metric was, revenue? Like, wouldn't you make a game that you knew people would buy? But instead, they would make a game that no one buys. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, some of these companies make the weirdest decisions that just don't make any sense. And like, yeah, like, I have no problem with Kiln, but like, why was it made? Why didn't they get put on Psychonauts 3? Psychonauts 3 would have made money. It would have had player retention, and they weren't. They weren't making that, right? And do you know what's funny? And I hate that I sound mean, right? But now that they're independent, they have to make games that sell well. So I
I
bet,
know, funny how that works.
yeah.
Mm.
So I bet in the next couple of months, I bet all of a sudden Psychonauts 3 is announced just to be in development, right? Because these are independent now. They have to make money. Is their pottery-based party brawling game? Try saying that 10 times fast. Is that going to print money? Even though it has a year roadmap? Again, I don't want to sound harsh, but these games need to make money. Look at Ninja Theory, and I think Ninja Theory were a great studio, but I think the slow pacing and then the puzzles put a lot of people off. But do you know what their new game is? It's an action game. More people will buy it now, right? And hopefully they have a lot of success with that game. But I just don't understand this whole wavy gravy, let these studios do whatever the hell they want attitude when clearly it wasn't working. You know, we see I'm trying to think what I can say without being offensive, right? But Asha Sharma is clearly getting things done. She's telling these studios, stop your, look, we hear about these developers at Bethesda that are on strike, right? They're on strike, and we keep hearing, hey, we want to get back to making games. But if you look at Bethesda, where's their big games, right? What big games have they put out outside of Doom and stuff, right? People have been waiting for a new Fallout. We haven't gotten one. People have been waiting for new Elder Scrolls. We haven't gotten one. Yet you have these developers literally on strike. Excuse me, literally on strike, saying, "Hey, don't fire us. We want better treatment." Well, in my opinion, you should make some bloody games. Again, I don't mean to sound harsh, but I just looking at the way the industry's moving, it's how can you not put out games when people are asking for them? And what have you been doing this whole time? We see this all the time where these studios, they've been hired or they've been just doing their own thing for years, and it's what I put it is, what's Obsidian been putting out for years when it comes to Elder Scrolls or Fallout? Bloody nothing, right? So what have they been making this whole time? Yeah, we got Starfield, but what were the people doing that were working on Elder Scrolls? Twiddling their thumbs? Because that game started full production after Starfield came out. So what were these people doing? Right? I think a lot of people have just been getting paid to sit around. That exact same thing kind of happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, but I'm not trying to make a topic about Andromeda or Mass Effect again. But my point is that she's actually making these developers do things that'll make money, keep player retention, and to us gamers, we win because we're going to get games people actually want. We don't want a pottery-based party brawling game, Logan, I've been talking for 5 minutes, but what's your take on this? Because it looks like she's actually making proactive moves and getting these studios to make games we actually want.
I completely agree. This is not white knighting standing. I'm serious. I think she is one of the best things that has happened to the brand in quite a long time. They needed a drastic shakeup. They needed a great reset. Obviously, would I have preferred a reset happen without job loss? Of course. Obviously. But they needed to shake some things up, rattle some sabers, kick in some doors. They needed to put the fear of stuff into some people. Like, as much as people like the idea of creative freedom, and I'm all for it when it works, but just like in life and responsibility and stuff, some people are proven to where you can give them way more room and wiggle room, and they're self-reliant, they're good at what they do, they know what they're doing, they're responsible, they get things done orderly, timely, it makes sense, and then they can take some creative risks and see how it goes. And then there are some other people where you basically need a Darth Vader type in the room that has their hand on their shoulder and is guiding them point and click style along the way to get something done. And you know what? Maybe they finally realized that they needed some more of that energy. And it's working. I think it will work. And I'm optimistic. Again, I always thought the hate from somebody from outside the industry was forced and ridiculous. We've talked all the time about, like you said, Filame and others. Like I see it in sports and all kinds of stuff. People from outside the industry come in, they shake things up, and it ends up working because the insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Like you gotta change things up sometimes to get something different. Point is, we should not be waiting 15 years for a sequel to a game that had on average a 4 to 5 year gap in between the games before then. Like, what on earth has happened? Yes, pandemic, but still, what on earth has happened in a span of 15 years that caused such a drop and change in developmental style or ability to actually get something done compared to back then? And like all this other stuff. And you know what? I really hope she turns the Eye of Sauron gaze to 343 Halo and gets that sorted ASAP. Because, again, that one has been a sore spot for a lot of people, especially the decision to put it on PS5 to begin with, which we can talk about or not. But just they got to get their stuff together, and I think she really needs to go in there or take a crew in there and take a real hard look at some things and figure out what on earth they're doing and get it done. One way or another, that franchise and its fans deserve better, and it's been far too long.
Yeah, I mean the Halo thing. You look at Gears, right? What's Gears doing? It's going back to its roots, right? Linear based game design, gritty, gory, and it's what people want. With Halo, and I'm seeing people play a campaign evolved, thinking like this is great. Like, is it that too difficult to do more of that? Right? You know, um, and like the fact that we're going so long in between Halo games, like maybe she does need to go in there and say, hey, stop it, stop, right? Because like Halo's had no movement in years, and I'm a single player gamer, right? I've
Mhm.
had no new single player content for Halo since Infinite came out, right? Which is crazy. Um, they really need to like do something with Halo, and we'll throw this in there as well. Like the sales numbers came out about Halo, and next to nobody's playing it on PlayStation. And by the way, I used the term months ago. Was the juice worth the squeeze? I got so much hate for it online. Right? People made videos about this one sentence I said on Twitter when we got the sales figures for Starfield and stuff. Because I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. And I'm proven right once again. Right? I hate saying I'm right, but the fact that Halo just didn't move units, like, could we say is Halo not as popular as it used to be? I don't think that's really the thing. I think it's the fact that it's been so long since the last Halo game. We all know that there's been troubled development. Halo Infinite was meant to be a launch title. We got it a year later, and multiplayer support wasn't exactly what people wanted. Halo's had this weird mistaken identity for a long time, but you also have the fans that, or well, some fans that just do nothing but complain about Halo. So they need to do something with Halo. I love Halo, but I never talk about it because, as before we went live, Logan mentioned that and this is true, the Halo fan base is exactly like the Star Wars fan base, indecisive and just split down the middle. you know, um, but like putting the game on PlayStation, that didn't land well with people, and like you could tell the official PlayStation Twitter account, they marketing the hell out of Halo, and nobody's budging, right? I think that the game that made your console being put on an alternate platform was a horrifically bad move. Like your rival that almost ended you. You put your best game on their platform. That didn't sit well with people. Having a Halo employee wear a PlayStation T-shirt at a Halo event. Oof. Like, I really hope. I mean, I bet he's like burnt that T-shirt because like just the reaction to that was hilarious and just shocking at the same time. But we need to see moves made for Halo as well. And like back to the exclusive thing, I'm happy Xbox is now doing exclusives again. We all know they need a differentiating factor that will make people buy into their console. And by the way, there are people in the Xbox fan base which I say they are for multi-platform games. I'm for multi-platform games, but multi-platform only works if everyone does it. But they don't. So like you giving people less of a reason to buy into your console now. You have people like I've never seen excitement for a Xbox game like GZ in a very long time. You know, people are genuinely excited, and seeing the marketing campaign they did with SummerSlam, I've not seen this excitement for Xbox in a long time. So like Xbox is doing all these steps in the right direction, and it just leaves me with one question: what the hell has been going on at Xbox for the past 4 years?
It's an expletive great question.
Like, we stopped getting console updates altogether. We stopped hearing Microsoft refer to Xbox as a console. Console players weren't talked to anymore, right? Phil Spencer was never answering the question, as in, how do you plan on growing your console user base if you're putting your games elsewhere? He never answered that. Like I make Xbox content, right? Every month I put out a video of the biggest games coming to Xbox. Do you know I get a reply or used to get a reply almost instantly to every single one of those videos that's just about game releases that month, asking why should I buy an Xbox if I can play the exclusives elsewhere, right? Even though that's not what my video is about, people still wrote that, right? And it's just a thought that's gone around, right? So like Xbox needed to get back to exclusives. They needed to have like actual reasons to buy into the ecosystem. And yeah, is it starting with 2 games? But 2 games are way better than none. You know, starting off.
Hey, it was just 4 games to begin with the other way.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like the thing is, if you go back in time, and if that was just the 4 games, there wouldn't be much of a problem, right? But it wasn't just 4 games; it was every game. And we were essentially lied to as a user base. I put out I did a live stream after that business podcast they did, because can you remember, Logan, how that rumor came out around Christmas, and the entire user base lost the marbles, and we're trying to find some logic in the whole situation. And after that business podcast, I did a live stream thinking, okay, it's only 4 games, nice, we can all move on now, right? And what happened a couple of months later? Indiana Jones announced for PlayStation. People stopped talking about those games, stopped talking about the features, stopped talking about, hey, like, as soon as Indiana Jones, and this is when I was proved right once again, as soon as Indiana Jones was announced for PlayStation, not a single person asked about what's the gameplay like, what's the game structure like, who's doing the soundtrack, who's doing the other voices. None of that was asked. It was talking about platforms, right? Talking about platforms, announcing these games as multi-platform, diminished the games themselves. Nobody cared about the games. They just cared about platforms. And now we see Xbox actually trying. That's why I keep using the term proactive change, because I honestly think that Phil Spencer and the rest of Xbox leadership were just coasting by. They weren't doing anything to help the situation. They were just not really doing anything extra as well. They were just coasting by, letting Xbox grow in the mobile space, letting Xbox do this whole cloud thing. And like, if you go to any Phil Spencer interview over the past 4 years, you'll notice the word console is almost never mentioned. They never talk about how they plan on growing the console user base. They never talk about how they plan on improving the console user base or console user experience. Like, Asher Sharma stepped in, we got achievement fixes straight away. The store got upgraded. We start getting more BC upgrade. BC. What do you call it? BC
Updates,
features.
enhancements, stuff.
Yeah. We start getting more of everything, But like, where were those features for years, right? We weren't told anything for years, like, which is why I've been annoyed. As a console player, I don't care about streaming. I don't care about PC. I prefer a console, and I haven't been spoken to for 4 years. Crazy. And you'd think executives would understand that. Hey, you want you want your platform to make money. You need people to buy into it to use it, but they just removed reasons, right? And by the way, I don't think exclusives are the only reason to buy into Xbox. I do think there's other reasons. You've got backwards compatibility, you have Game Pass, but like the big factor for people are those exclusives. The big reason people tuned into game showcases, it's not because of Game Pass. It's not because of backwards compatibility. It's because they want to see the new games. And, you need new games on your platform. If exclusives didn't matter, PlayStation and Nintendo wouldn't do them. But hey, Logan, have you got anything else to say on the whole exclusive thing before we move on?
Just basically, I know I ruffled some feathers with some tweets I had put out, but, I still stand by them. I thought it was blasphemous and completely asinine to put your flagship crown jewel franchise on your competitor, and then you get all of that for a drop of blood, all that for 1% engagement. Really? You tarnish the reputation and the fan goodwill and credibility and loyalty and image, all that for 1%. And I know it's just games. It's in the grand scheme of life, it's not a big deal. But there's just something to staying core to who you are and your identity and your truth and, your image with your fan base, your family, your whatever, your team, And to do that was a line you just don't cross. And they did. And it clearly was not worth that line crossed. And they can fix it. Just don't do it again. Point blank. Just keep Halo on Xbox and things will be great. And another thing on the exclusivity thing, there are too many people talking. Have one or two people talk. Don't have them all talk. And especially don't have them all talk if they're going to start saying different things from each other. Be on one page or just don't talk. Because that pisses off the community more than just about anything else.
Yeah, the whole too many cooks in the kitchen thing is true. People at Xbox, look, if I ran Microsoft right now, I'd tell everyone, every executive, stop doing interviews. Altogether, stop doing them. Because we don't see people at Nintendo do interviews all the time. And I think there's a difference between transparency and just talking too much. And people at Microsoft were just talking too much. Which is how, they got in trouble with the whole 2013 thing. They were just talking all the time. Everyone was saying something different. Messaging wasn't clear. And, look at 2024, 23, whenever the whole business podcast thing was. Phil Spencer said, don't look at these games, think it's hitting at other games. It's just these 4 games. And then literally 15 minutes after that podcast, he did an interview with The Verge saying, by the way, he was asked, will Starfield and Indiana Jones come to other platforms? Or you're not saying it will never come? And he said, no, I'm not saying they'll never come. It's like, you just said in the interview, their messaging has been a problem for a very long time. But hey, I like the moves I'm seeing from Microsoft now, the moves they're doing. And again, proactive change. Asher Sharma clearly cares about the brand, clearly more than what we've seen in a long time. I know I might sound harsh today, but it's just like I've just had these realities recently, or epiphanies, whatever you want to call it, right? Where it's crystal clear that the moves we've seen at Xbox over the past 3 to 4 years have not done anything to help Xbox, right? Not just even the exclusive thing, just like, not doing console updates. Yeah, Xbox being referred to as a platform as opposed to a console. Yet, if you're on PC, congratulations, you're using Steam, right? You're not using the Windows 10 store or the Windows store, right? I don't know what they were thinking. But what we're seeing right now is just better moves, and yeah. And look, we've seen all this hype for Gamescom. By the way, I forgot to mention, these are the games we're going to see gameplay for at Gamescom. Halo Campaign Evolved, which has already been announced. We're getting gameplay for Metro 2039, Stranger Than Heaven, Fable, Minecraft Dungeons 2, Gears of War E-Day, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, Microsoft Flight Simulator, so that'll be the latest update, Alien Deathstorm, Armistice, which is a third-person shooter, The Blood of Dawnwalker, Castlevania, Belmont's Curse, Crown Sworn, Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy, Star Wars Zero Company, Terrible Lizards, Two Rock Origins, Valor Mortis, and gameplay for Alien Isolation 2. So that's going to be an interesting event. Alien Isolation 2, I'm there. But yeah, anyway, everyone in chat's been amazing. We've basically gone through every topic, and we have a couple of things left, but we'll save till next week. It's already gone over 2 hours. But again, everyone in chat has been amazing. Logan, it's been great talking with you once again. And the link to my last video, the 10 biggest new games come to Xbox in August. The link is in the description down below. The support is greatly appreciated. Unfortunately, when you have a gap on YouTube, the algorithm doesn't do you any favors. So if you can, just click on the link in the description, watch the video, hit like. It's greatly appreciated. Making these videos takes a long time to make, sometimes upwards of 12 hours, because the editing, the processing, everything about it, it's a long time. But honestly, I like making these videos, and my lists are actually more accurate than IGN's. But anyway, the link to that is in the description down below. We'll be back for a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast next Tuesday at the same time. And I should be getting out weekly videos once again, back to how I used to a couple of years ago. Anyway, again, everyone in chat's been amazing. We're out, everybody.